Hey guys, I am the Retro Goat, and today we are going to be taking a look at NECA's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Ultimate April O'Neil. Now this figure has been pretty highly anticipated ever since it was confirmed to be in the works, and that's because it's intended to replace the original release of April O'Neil. Now, if you were one of the few individuals that actually came across that original April O'Neil in stores back in 2020, you would have seen that she came with a smashed up foot soldier, and you would have also noticed that her head sculpt was way too big for her body, almost comically oversized, and that upset a lot of fans. Now, fast forward 3 years later, and we have this new Ultimate April O'Neil with a brand new head sculpt and some new accessories fully intended to replace that original release. So let's get into it. As always, with NECA's Ultimate TMNT figures, the boxes are made to look like the old TMNT Family Home Entertainment VHS covers. And they do a really excellent job at mimicking those covers. And if you don't know what a VHS is, just go look it up. We have here on the sides NECA, which is meant to look like Family Home Entertainment, the Turtles logo, the Mutant Interest Story logo, same here on the side. On the back, we have the Turtles logo, a whole bunch of copy. We've got a photo of April in the capture clamp, a photo of April interviewing Ground Chuck here, and another photo of April bringing Mikey the Venus flytrap from an episode of the show. And then some artwork here, of course. And then we have here artwork on the front cover with the Turtles and Splinter watching a news report from April on the TV. And then on here on the side we have volume number 11, which is of course a reference to the amount of figures that have been in the Ultimates line so far, with April being number 11 in the series. And as with all NECA Ultimates figures, we have a flap here on the front, which opens up to reveal a window showing off the figure, the accessories, and a photo on the inside of the flap. It does look really, really good. And then, of course, the brand new Ultimate April O'Neil with her brand new head, and man, it looks really, really good. This figure comes with an absolute ton of accessories. Some of them are older accessories from the original release, and we've got a few new ones in here as well, and we'll go over all that stuff in a moment. Let's go ahead and get her open and check it out. Alright guys, we have April out of the package, and we'll come in here with the tape measure. And she's coming in just shy of 6 inches, just a little above 5 3/4. So for build quality, she feels pretty good in hand. Plastic feels good, doesn't feel cheap. She did have some issues with a few of her joints, like her knee joints and over here at the elbow, where they were stuck in place and you have to put in a little extra effort to get them unstuck, which is unfortunately pretty typical for NECA figures, but overall, she's not bad. She's not bad at all. So for the sculpt, April is made up of a combination of previously used parts from her original release and newly molded parts specifically for this updated Ultimates release. So essentially from the waist down to the feet are parts from her original release, as well as the arms are also parts from her original release. Now for this new Ultimates release, the upper torso is a brand new sculpted part, and then of course obviously the head, which is one of the selling points of this new set, is a newly molded part. And overall, it still looks really good. The new parts go really well with the original parts, and I think they did a really good job in improving upon that original April release. Now I do want to address one issue with the sculpt here that it bothers some people, others not. It really just depends, but if you see on the packaging and obviously the figure in hand, her neck is very, very long, and I don't know if you can get a good look here, but up close, her neck, it does look abnormally long, almost alien-like, and it is a little weird. But it's not that bad. If you're looking at it from an angle like this, then it does look very, very funky. It looks really weird and disproportioned, and it's kind of creepy. But if you bring her head down just a little bit, it only has a little bit of down anyway, but you know, and you're looking at her more from a straight on position, it doesn't look that bad. And initially I thought this was some kind of weird mistake on Neca's part, but going back and looking at the animation, her neck is actually really, really long in the original show, just like this. And I guess that's just something I never really picked up on as a kid watching the show, and even, you know, watching it recently, I never really caught on to that. So it is, in that sense, animation accurate. So just position her to where you're just looking at her more head on, as opposed to looking at her like from a vantage point like this, because otherwise it does look pretty weird. As for paint, paint's looking good on this figure. We have a nice two-toned color of paint for her jumpsuit. The front has a nice sort of yellow mustard color for the jumpsuit, and on the back, a little bit darker yellow to give it that more cell animated look. And we, of course, have white for the boots. We have a good flesh tone paint on the arms here. And then, of course, we've got the watch here on her wrist, painted white. We've got white here on the belt that goes around. We've got her handy cam here on the back that's painted. And then the buckle here on her belt that is more of a bronze colored paint. And then, of course, we have the line detailing throughout on her jumpsuit, on her boots, her head, and hair that give it that cell animation look, and it looks great. Now, one thing to note with the paint here, and again, this is pretty typical for NECA figures, there is a little bit of paint flecking happening here. I don't know if you can really see this all that well, but when you move individual joints, especially her arms with the flesh-toned paint, it is chipping off a little bit in tiny little paint flecks like this that I can see pretty easily on my table here. It's not a lot, it's only coming off at the joint itself. The rest of the paint on the body is absolutely fine, so just something to keep in mind, and again, fairly typical for most NECA figures. And then, of course, articulation. Overall articulation is pretty good. We'll start here with the head. The head movement is pretty limited. She has virtually no up or down motion at all with her head. You know, with the up, the back of her hair is hitting the collar here. She's got a little bit of down motion, but it's virtually non-existent there. We do get a left turn, right turn on the head. We've got a full 180 for the full exorcist, and then of course a full 360 turn. At the arms here, we've got a 90-degree up on the shoulders, full 90 degrees. She also has a full 360-degree rotation at the shoulders. She does not have a bicep swivel, but you do get some extra movement in the elbow joints here, and she in fact does have a double jointed elbow, believe it or not, with an okay bend. It's not as great as it could be. It looks like the forearm here is sort of getting in the way of letting her bend it a little bit further, so it's not the best, it's also not terrible. She also has a swivel here at the elbow with a full 360 degrees. She also has a swivel here at the forearm, also at a full 360 degrees. We have a hinge joint here at the wrist, which gives her a little up and down motion. It's a little limited, but it's not bad. And then of course she has swivel here, full 360 degree motion. We also have torso articulation that appears to be on a ball joint. There's not much of an ab crunch here. You get a little down, a little bit of a crunch, not much. She does have a little bit of leaning back motion here as well, but also it is, again, still pretty limited. She's got some pretty decent side-to-side motion here. And then, of course, you can twist her full 360 degrees if need be. And then with the leg articulation here, let's go ahead and fix her arms back up. Okay. You've got her legs on ball joints, as you can see. And you can get a pretty decent split here, but you can't get a full split, and you kind of do have to hold her up in this position, she cannot hold it by herself because she just falls over. But her hips, her butt, it's all a much softer, pliable plastic, which lets you kind of get some of this bend here, but it's not fully pliable enough to give her a full split. And again, with the legs, you can get about this far forward. You know, her legs are still somewhat limited in articulation. She does not have a very high kick available. The back is also fairly limited in being able to go straight back because there's no cut here anywhere for that full motion to happen. But you do get a bit of a swivel here on the upper thighs here. And that can go a full 360. And then here at the knees, you do have a double jointed knee, which gives you a really, really good bend here, like literally bends all the way back for both legs. Excellent bend on both of them. It looks really, really nice. And that can kind of help you get a pretty decent, pretty sort of decent run out of her somewhat. You've got really good back articulation here on the leg. The front is a little limited, but yeah, so you get a pretty decent run out of that. It's not bad. And then with the feet, we have ankle tilt forward, backward, and they are on a rocker joint for some side to side. So overall, not bad. No super loose joints. Everything is very tight. She will not fall apart in your hands at all, which is great. All right, so now let's go ahead and get her back up here, and let's take a look at her accessories. All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories for this set. Now, some of these accessories came with the original release of April, while others are newly released for this set. So let's go ahead and take a look at the new accessories, and then we'll look at the original pieces. So right off the bat, we have the two brand new head sculpts for April. We've got a smiling face for April, and we have a blindfolded face for April if you want to create a scene where she has been kidnapped. We also have this accessory of a picture of April's Aunt Aggie, aka Agatha Marbles. One of the cool things about this is that this is actually a digital render of a upcoming figure from NECA. Sometimes they tease new figures through accessories like this because this hasn't actually been officially announced in any capacity, so it's really cool when they do stuff like this. And then we have the Venus flytrap monster, baby monster, from the episode It Came From Beneath the Sewers, where April brings the turtles this little baby flytrap, Venus flytrap. We also have the Doku plant slash Gazai leaf from the episode Enter the Fly, where April is poisoned by the Doku plant and then recovers from the Gazai leaf plant. Also very cool. And then we have this, which I think the box refers to it as like the capture clamp. Now, I have no specific memory of this appearing in the show, but I have absolutely no doubt that it did at some point. I just don't remember it at all. But it is there if you want to set up your scene with April being captured by Shredder. Okay, and with that original release, April came with 2 pairs of hands total, whereas this release came with 6 pairs of hands total, and we've got 4 new ones to take a look at. So we've got a pair of peace hands, we have a pair of pointing hands, we've got a pair of thumbs up and or thumbs down, and we've got a pair of hands that are open with fingers splayed out. And then we've got a pair of open hands, which came with the original release. And then the pair that comes on the figure, which are just a pair of fists. And then as for the other accessories that came with that original set, we've got the Channel 6 camera. We've got the Channel 6 microphone. Got the Channel 6 tape recorder with attached microphone. We have the Tortoise and the Hare book, which is actually unique to this set, but it also came in, like, I believe the Turtles in Disguise 4-pack, so it's been in other sets, just not with April. You've got the Maltese hamster, which appeared in the episode The Maltese Hamster. You've got the baby pizza monster, which appeared in the episode The Case of the Killer Pizzas, which has also been in a few other sets over the years. And then, of course, I believe last but not least, April's TurtleCom, or Turtle Communicator. Now, I wish they had given us one that was molded in an open position so you could make it like she was talking to the turtles, but it's not a big deal. We still get one. Very cool. And that should do it for accessories. Alright guys, let's do a quick side-by-side here of the new Ultimates April versus the old original release from a few years back. So, the first thing you're going to notice right off the bat is obviously the newly tooled head and the newly tooled upper torso for the new Ultimates release versus the original. The newly tooled parts really do improve upon that figure so much. It looks so good and really kind of just invalidates this version of the figure. If you can get a hold of this one, this is definitely the one you're going to want in your collection. Something else to take note of is the color of her jumpsuit. With the original April, it is a much brighter shade of yellow, almost neon if it's in the right light, versus the new one, which has a much darker, more mustard shade of yellow for the jumpsuit. And then if you turn them to the sides, you can see the two tones on the back for the shading, and those are also very different colors. They're using a darker shade of yellow for the shading on the back here, but it is still much brighter than the shading for the new April on the back side here. Another fairly significant change is her boots, where on the original release, they have this gray shading on the back of her boots, versus the new release here, which are completely white. There's no shading there at all. Also, if you look real closely, you can see the belt on this original April has a two-toned paint on it. You've got white in the front and gray in back, versus this newly released April, which has an all-white belt in the front and the back. And then, if you look really closely, the piece of equipment that's hanging off her belt here, I'm not 100% sure what this is supposed to be. If you look very closely, the new release has painted detail in the grooves, versus the original release, which is just all one-color paint. Beyond that, they're just sort of minute changes to these figures. You'll see if you look really closely, there's some minute changes to the line art on the figures. So if you look closely on the arms here, there's no line art here on the original figure, but there are some on the newly released figure here. And if you look at multiple different spots, you'll find them all over the place, sort of on the figure, on the boots as well, that most people aren't going to really notice, but for those eagle-eyed fans, the change is definitely there. Alright guys, final thoughts. So I think NECA did a pretty good job here listening to fan critique and feedback by going back to the original mold and retooling a brand new head and also a brand new upper torso to fit in with that new head. And I think it looks great. It's absolutely a huge improvement over that original release. I think my only critique would be that her neck looks a little elongated and kind of alien-like depending on the angle that you're viewing it from. That being said, it is pretty animation accurate and I can't really fault them for that. Either way, this figure is without a doubt the best animated rendition of April that we have ever had. And I'm really glad NECA decided to go back and revisit the figure. So NECA's Ultimates April O'Neil was released exclusively at Target stores and online at Target.com. Unfortunately, she is long sold out, but I will leave a link down below, and hopefully they still get some more figures in stock for those of you still looking. Alright guys, I rate my action figures on a 1 to 4 goat scale, and I give April O'Neil 4 goats. Build quality, sculpt, paint, articulation are all great. She comes with an absolute ton of accessories, and she truly is the best rendition of an animated April O'Neil that we have ever had, which really does make her the ultimate April O'Neil. If you are looking for an animated version of April for your TMNT collection, I highly recommend her. So what do you guys think? Do you like this new Ultimates version of April, or do you prefer the original release? And have you picked this up, or are you still on the hunt for your own? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, give it a like. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell for notifications. And remember, stay retro and be the GOAT. Till next time.